Hi, my name is Kylie Blacksell and I'm from Human Happiness, and welcome to your second video in the video tutorial series, the definitive health, wealth and happiness system, which is actually based on Ho'oponopono, which has been modernised recently, and I've been able to structure it in such a way that it can be used by anybody at any time, at any place, for profoundly amazing benefits. So now we're actually going to focus on health and wealth, and what level of health and wealth you can actually achieve. Well, really, the sky's the limit. There is no level that can't be achieved here, and definitely improvement in your health. And to give you a bit of an overview, I thought about this, and I thought, well, the easiest way to explain what you can actually achieve is to actually tell you what I've achieved. Okay, definitely since starting my Reiki training, becoming a Reiki practitioner and becoming a Reiki master has definitely helped. But getting me over that final line, and actually not final line, but definitely getting over that last difficult bit that I was experiencing with quite a few things, Ho'oponopono has definitely catapulted me to a much higher level of understanding and a much higher level of health and wealth. So I'll give you a few examples. I was definitely, before doing this work, I was definitely overweight and unfit. Since then I've lost 15 kilos, and that last 5 kilos happened when I started practicing Ho'oponopono regularly. Definitely, probably that just says it all really, but I was very attached to food. I had a lot of emotional eating issues. I was very depressed, very anxious, very upset with my life. And the Ho'oponopono definitely pushed me over the line for that last 5 kilos that I just could not nudge. I'd been trying for more than a year to get that last 5 kilos off, and I actually managed to do it using the technique of Ho'oponopono. I had a lot of digestive issues and painful bloating. A lot of the time I would eat something that I thought would be okay, and then I'd end up looking like I was 8 months pregnant. And this was a very common thing, particularly in the evenings. And it was very painful. And bowel issues as well, so a lot of pain, and now it's managed very nicely. Obviously I'm looking at what I'm eating as well, but my tolerance has increased quite significantly with foods that I couldn't eat before, and definitely I don't get episodes of bloating anymore or that sort of pain. I was running hot all the time, so this was a really big deal for me. I couldn't go to my, I had to. I'd go to my son's swimming lessons and sit there on the side of the pool watching him doing his swimming lessons, thinking, how am I going to get through this half an hour? Because it was just so hot for me. The humidity in the pool, I'm sure some of you would have experienced this, was almost unbearable for me. I'd get very, very hot and flustered trying to change him afterwards, and it was just really ridiculous. I'd sleep hot, and I'd find being out in nature, even if it was just a little bit warm, I just couldn't cope. But now my Pitta dosha, which is the hot dosha in Ayurvedic medicine, has definitely calmed down. I've definitely got that into a place of balance, and it's fantastic. So now, if not anything, I get a little bit chilly. So it's about 20 degrees today here at the Botanic Gardens in Canberra, and I'm just right, and the wind's coming through, and I'm feeling not chilly, but just, fresh. Whereas before I'd actually be, well, not sweating, but I'd be pretty bad. I'd be uncomfortable. So that's a really amazing thing that I've actually been able to overcome quite recently, actually, over the last 6 months. I used to be perpetually sick. I'd have the stomach problems, energy levels would be up and down all over the place, tired a lot, severe tonsillitis, chronic tonsillitis for at least a decade there, where I got to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I'd have 2 weeks in bed with massive pain relief tablets that just weren't working. Your Panadines and all that weren't working, and eventually I was signed up to get my tonsils out as an adult. I think I was around about 35 at that time, and then I started to do this energy work, and I still have my tonsils and I don't get tonsillitis anymore. I might get a tiny niggle, and then I'll look at what it is that I'm not telling the truth about to myself. So what is I'm trying to lie to myself about, or what thing needs to be said out loud, and then it's gone. So it's like my early warning system now, which is a fantastic gift to have. So I'm very thankful for those many years of tonsillitis that have allowed me to get to this point. I was on antibiotics. I cannot tell you how many courses of antibiotics I've been on, probably around 40 or 50, from before the age of around about 35. And that was pretty bad, and of course painkillers as well. And so now I can very, very happily and joyfully announce that I've not needed a doctor or a hospital or drugs or painkillers for the last 5 years, except for one incident where I managed to catch a little bit of a bug from airborne particles when I was cleaning a house and I was moving out. I was very tired because I was doing it all by myself. And my immune system was a bit low and I ended up having to go on antibiotics. But that's the only time, that's about 3 years ago. That's the only time I've actually needed to go see the doctor, needed to go on antibiotics, needed any painkillers or anything. I did take a little bit of time off work that week. I cancelled some yoga classes. But other than that, I've not taken a sick day. I've not had to go to the doctor. And stop for a second, have a think. What would it be like? And of course my children as well, they used to be at the doctors all the time. I used to be in emergency with my son all the time. He's special needs, and probably about 4 or 5 pretty significant incidents where I was sitting in emergency crying, not coping. My daughter got quite ill quite a few times, taken off in the ambulance, and since this work I've not had sick children either. So have a think about how much money you would save and how much time you would save and effort you would save if you weren't going to the doctor. I'm not going to assume that you are, but most people see doctors, and just looking at the trend, they're opening up more medical centres these days instead of closing them. So my plan is to get it going the other way around, actually closing medical centres or turning the medical centres into holistic healing centres because more people are getting sick at the moment, and that's happening because our thoughts are actually creating that, and that's why Ho'oponopono is so powerful, because we actually remove those programs, and you'll hear about that more in further videos. I was definitely insomniac. I was definitely having nightmares, and I was definitely. And now I fall asleep quite easily and have dreams instead of nightmares. I was definitely addicted to my evening wine there for quite a while, for about 2 or 3 years after my divorce. That was a big thing. Chocolate, definitely, carbs, caffeine, but now I'm free from all of those things. I can have my odd little chocolate cake or something, but not actually get to the point where I can't stop eating it or have to have it there all the time. So that's a really massive thing. And I've been alcohol free and caffeine free and dairy free and sugar free for about 5 years now. So that's wonderful as well. I also had addiction to sex. That was a big thing there for about 5 years, and now I'm completely detached from that. Love it, but detached from it. And definitely text messages, so texting people and reaching for the phone every time the phone beeped, hoping that it was someone that was going to talk to me. So now I just use the phone, I suppose in a healthy way. You could say. Stress, anxiety and depression, that was pretty bad as well. After my divorce, I went on 2 sets of antidepressants over 2 different periods of time. I'd end up back at the doctors and bawling my eyes out, and they say, well, you've got to go back on your antidepressants. I'm like, no, I don't want to go back on my antidepressants. But there I was, taking the antidepressants again. And the Drew Yoga that I learnt, the course actually definitely helped me get off my second set of antidepressants. I think that second time was about 18-month period. And the Reiki definitely helped as well. But this Ho'oponopono, it really does move you to a much bigger level, a higher level, and it really does remove those programs from all levels of your being. So it gives you something else. It gives you freedom on a whole different level around that depression, that anxiety. So you can really nip it in the butt, and you don't have to constantly be maintaining. Because for a while there, I was doing regular yoga to prevent it from coming back. I still do yoga, of course, but it's not as necessary as you maybe as used to be. In the way of wealth, over the last 9 years since my divorce, I've had 2 bouts of extreme poverty, scary poverty, where I was, using my Flybuys points to go and buy bread. That sort of poverty, really, really scary, extremely stressful, and even if I wasn't in poverty, I was always struggling to get to the next, get the next rent in, to pay for the food. Never been able to go on holidays or enjoy things or have a nice car or anything like that. Now, and this has been definitely since doing the Ho'oponopono. I mean, the Reiki helped, of course, everything, I've been able to work for myself for the last 5 years, which has been fantastic. In my small business, I haven't had to rely on some other form of work. But for a long time there, I was heavily relying on the government to help support me. But now the money is flowing through. I've been able to increase my price, my hourly price, to $100 an hour, and that's been accepted very, very easily. I'm very, very okay with that, and I don't have to look at the bank balance. It's there. It's still building, but it's abundant. I'm usually booked out at least 2 weeks ahead, if not 4 weeks, for definitely for some sorts of therapies and some things. My workshops are generally booked out, and it's flowing. And so a lot of my programs around money, around restriction, around my self-esteem, how I felt about myself, have actually been lifted through doing Ho'oponopono on other people, which is awesome, and I will explain that a little bit more in later videos. So I hope that gave you a little bit more of an insight into what level of health and wealth you could reach, or what you could actually shift, no matter how unhealthy maybe you are at the moment, or how much in poverty you are at the moment. It can definitely shift through this work. So I do hope you found that helpful. Please do send through your comments and questions if you do have any questions. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.